This is the end of the beginning. Welcome to today's show. I've talked many times about the digital ID being part of the end game and the mark of the beast, and we are getting closer and closer. And they're calling this latest so-called experiment, but which is really just a test run in Australia, the holy grail of digital IDs. I call it personally the holy hell of digital IDs. But Victor Dominello has used his last ministerial address to champion the state's forthcoming decentralized digital identity system as a lever for huge microeconomic reform. I'd say huge micro penis, but that's just my take on this nightmare that they're implementing and forcing on society. And remember, when they have the digital ID in place, they expect and want the elderly to be killed off, because the elderly can obviously be like, I don't know how to do this. And what are they going to do? Force it on people who are old? No, but we see the experiments going on now with the elderly to get rid of them. Pretty clear, right? The next generations, this is going to be as normal as having a social security card. And if you don't have it, you will not be able to buy or sell. You will not be able to be a part of society. And it has everything to do with you. But let's go and take a look at what Australia is doing with what they're calling the Holy Grail.
The state government is about to launch a new form of digital ID that means you'll never have to hand over your personal details to anyone again. It will all be stored in the Service New South Wales app on your phone, which will prove you are who you say you are.
Scanning his licence, passport and Medicare card, in less than 3 minutes, the minister proves he really is Victor Dominello.
This is unquestionably the Holy Grail.
This is your first look at the state's new digital ID.
This is a huge step forward in giving back people control over their data, control over their identity.
Personal credentials will be stored on your device. No IDs need to be handed over. And that means keeping your address and birth date to yourself. If you need to hire a car, rent a property, set up a bank account, check into a hotel, or prove you're over 18 to buy alcohol or attend an event.
All you need to do is tap your phone, and that will be a validation that you are real.
Australians from, the kitchen table to the boardroom table would have an increased anxiety following the deluge of data breaches we saw late last year.
But this seeks to take away the risk, because companies will never have a copy of your details in the first place. But how can it trust you are who you say you are? Well, you'll need to take a selfie, which will be cross-checked against other forms of ID you've submitted, and when there's a match, you're good to go. The technology will be opt-in and should be available later this year, although you'll run into problems interstate.
More than happy to offer it to other jurisdictions.
Amy Clements, 7 News.
So if that doesn't look like hell, I don't know what does, right? So of course they're going to tell you stuff like, well, it's safe and it's secure, just take your picture, right? They'll be able to monitor every single thing that you buy, every single thing that you say, every single thing that you do, and of course, every single thing you've ever put in your body. This all ties in to the digital ID. It looks like a living hell. The guy that you saw there, Mr. Dominello, said these physical documents were no longer fit for purpose in the data age, pointing to the privacy risks posed by businesses that store copies of credentials, as highlighted by the Optus and Meta Bank data breaches last year. For those of you who have listened to my channel for a while, I have warned about this from the beginning. This is the way that they're going to push this. Fake breaches, fake hacking, fake bank account problems with withdrawals. All of this stuff having to do with identity theft. That's all we've heard about, right? How many times have you ever put the radio on there just constantly talking about identity theft? Oh, is your identity been stolen? Right? We see it on, 60 Minutes, those types of shows. They constantly will put propaganda out there about, these boogeymen in their mom's basements in Russia are hacking people's identities and pretending to be them. They have put the fear into people so that they can roll this out. And they could say, the days of having things on paper are gone. Everything needs to be in a digital ID. And again, the digital ID is going to be your DNA. It's going to be inside of you. So this is a precursor for it, where they say your digital ID, they have to get it to a point where, you're used to having a digital ID on your phone, right? Just like I've talked about over the years with, being able to pay from a credit card, right? The transition from cash to credit card to phone to on your watch, you could tap and pay. It's just, all it's doing is working people towards having it inside their body. Oh, guess what? You don't have to carry a wallet anymore. Guess what? It's so much more convenient. Things like this that the zombies, obviously you would say, oh, they're not going to fall for it. Oh, yeah, they will. Just look at things like Alexa. Alexa, can you turn off my lights? Oh, wow. Would you think 30 years ago that anyone would even want something like that, let alone that people would have to have it and would like not even know how to function without it? That's what we've allowed technology to do. And of course, this is where we're all headed. So they're calling them the old, the data age and the de facto IDs. They say what Australia needs is basically to grow a backbone, and that's a digital spine. And that digital spine isn't a typical spine. It looks more like a double helix because Australia's federation, right? So it looks like a double helix. Does anybody know what a double helix looks like? Does anyone want to raise their hand that's out there? Let's say, oh, it looks like DNA. That's right. So that quote, literally that's the quote. Can I reread it just to show you if you're wondering if I'm right about this stuff or if we're all right about this and have been right? And obviously I say that not to boast myself. I say that for new people out there who might stumble on the channel, be hesitant, be like, this guy doesn't know what he's talking about. This guy's a conspiracy theorist. The reason they silence all of us is because we've all exposed what they're doing. And they're using deceit to deceive you into going along with this, and Christians to eventually take the mark of the beast. Or in some case, maybe some have. When we talk about alternating your DNA code. But that's another story for another day, certainly not here on YouTube. But he says, again, Australia needs to basically grow a backbone, and that's a digital spine. Some would say spineless, and that digital spine isn't a typical spine. It looks more like a double helix because Australia is federation. Oh, okay. So you're not just rubbing this in everyone's faces because you're actually literally talking about a DNA strand, what we know the vision of a DNA strand is supposed to look like. You're just saying it has everything to do with Australia's federation. Oh, gotcha. Wink, wink, Masonic scum. Mr. Dominello said the double helix would consist of 2 side rails, the federal government's MyGov, and a separate platform operated by each state and territory in the case of New South Wales, the NSW digital ID. So they want you to think that the government isn't going to you don't have to worry about the government. They're not going to look at what you're doing, what you're buying, and all this stuff. All right. And then you start using your brain and thinking about climate change, the thing that they're making up as we speak so they can literally monitor your behavior and everything else. Yeah. So the carbon footprint, think about how that'll tie in. Where, they're going to say that you shouldn't drive to your grandma's house, your grandma's dying, but you shouldn't drive there to say goodbye to her because there's going to be smoke coming out of your car, carbon emissions, and that would make you a bad citizen. So we're going to turn your car off, your electric car, and you won't be able to go say goodbye to grandma. But here's the consolation. You can go on Zoom and stay locked in your home and say goodbye to grandma that way. Oh, okay, I'll do that instead because I care so much about the climate. They're not enslaving us. Then they go and they silence people like me constantly for talking about these topics because it's so easy to see for those of us with eyes to see and ears to hear. Yeah, nothing to be suspicious about. I've only been talking about it. Even before you two, I've been talking about it, but talking about it in 8 years on here, 7 years? Credentials like the driver's licenses, passports, and veterans cards would then form the rungs between the side rails in the DNA strand, the minister said. This is him saying the other thing, but in the DNA strand. So just envision the rungs in the DNA strand. So your driver's license, your passport, your veteran cards would be on one side of the side rail, explaining the significance of agreement between digital ministers last week to expand the national identity system to include credentials. That rung is dovetailed into the side rail. It's all in one app. You don't have to muck around going from one app to another app and navigating. Oh, thank goodness. Mr. Dominello said this meant the user experience for citizens in NSW Digital ID and across other platforms would be seamless, unlike the My Health Record app launched on Thursday. Again, he goes on to say, I downloaded the My Health Report app. Great app, very silky smooth. But to get there, you had to change windows and muck around with passwords. So it's just not a great setup experience. Great. Oh, of course. So why don't you just roll and mark it out as one? Since everyone's going to be one, love is one world order, one world government, one religion, right? Yeah, it'll just be one app conveniently going along with it. So people have to log into multiple apps. And God forbid you carry around your license, your passport if you need it, or any other form of identification, because that's way too much stress. And of course, everyone's just going to say, we live in a digital age. It's so much easier. They're not going to realize that it's literally going to be in them. It's going to change who they are, and they're going to be getting control. How is it not there's millions of sci-fi movies that talk about and show this stuff that they can't see through the mind control because they go, well, that stuff's not real. It's just a great, cool movie. Oh, right. Just like witchcraft isn't real. Just like they're not promoting sorcery and all that stuff with the superheroes that get shoved down our throats. Or, the mind control with alien invasions that we've seen as they're desensitizing people and actually preparing people to accept the aliens, aka the demons, and they pull them over from the other side. I mean, it's all right there. Pretty easy to see. I mean, some people think it's like, they're like, I wish I never woke up. It can be stressful to be awake, but can you imagine being as dumb as most of these people are? Not to see this stuff? I mean, you're literally like walking around bumping into walls and, I don't know, gluing your head to cinder blocks. I don't know what most of these people are doing, but it's almost like most of them are brain damaged, And they are. I mean, in a lot of cases they are because, graphene don't work good on the brain if you catch my drift. So NSW Digital ID is the result of 4 years of work, which accelerated in the last 2 years. And of course, they'll say that because they'll be like, because of the outbreak that occurred, we started to work on this stuff. This has been the plan all along. Everybody who has a brain knows that. They describe the system, which is not yet live, as world-leading, with only a handful of other places working to develop a truly decentralized platform, including the Flanders region in Belgium. So it's another trigger term they use, decentralized, because, we all know that how bad the central banks are, the Federal Reserve is, right? So a lot of these people just who have fallen into the crypto deception, they're like, we're free of the Federal Reserve and the corrupt system of the world government. You're actually not. You're falling right into their trap. It's the illusion that you're free. So you're enslaved either way. The only way you would not be enslaved to them is if perhaps you had a trade and you worked in a bartering type system where you bartered with other people. You could cook, right? Somebody could cook in your family. You could be a carpenter. Somebody else could be a doctor. Like Little House on the Prairie, pretty much, right? And you barter that way. Then you wouldn't be dependent on the system. But we live in a very materialistic society on top of everything else that's going on in the world where we can live in that system, right? Because people would be like, well, I'm a doctor. I should get more than the carpenter should get based on me saying that because that's what we've been trained. So you're never going to get out of this system. But people who think that there's truly a decentralized platform are out of their minds. They would whack the person in 5 seconds, whoever went on television promoting Bitcoin in the first place. They would never let the stock become what it became. This is conditioning, mass conditioning for a digital currency. And again, maybe it won't be Bitcoin. Maybe it'll be whatever the Federal Reserve currency is. But this is all part of it. And this currency is going to be tied in with blockchain and the decentralized platform. It's all going to be in you. They don't mention that part yet about the digital currency because they haven't got the mind control thick enough yet to say we're going to burn cash. But we're getting close because we know that most people play with a credit card anyway. So they're going to mention that later on, but we know the passport's in existence now for obvious reasons with what they just did and how they wanted everyone to have a passport. Well, eventually they're going to say, hey, like we saw in the beginning of the outbreak, right? Cash was dirty and germy, and so were coins. We need to get rid of that. And everyone's like, yeah, we shouldn't use that anymore. I mean, that was part of the programming. Eventually, there will be no cash. Eventually, when they start talking about your digital ID, they're going to say, hey, guess what? Your digital ID and your digital wallet can be linked together and decentralized. It'll all be in you. You won't have to worry about somebody stealing your bank account, let alone stealing your ID anymore. Take the mark, come right down. It's the smart mark, right? Just like the Stretch Armstrong crap. So they are pushing it. This guy goes on to say this is unquestionably the holy grail. I mean, this is holy hell is what it is. And the more they get people obsessed with their technology, the more they get people on their technology distant from other humans, which is part of what the outbreak is also about, that people forget, is that by isolating people, getting them used to not being in contact with other humans makes them grow cold to other humans while they push all this liberal insanity and right-wing stuff back and forth. People then don't even want to be friends with people who are opposite politics, right? Then people don't even want to date people anymore because of germs and other things, and they're starting to date virtual anime characters. I mean, it's really clear to see where this is all headed, and it's not good. Reminder, check out the website at timeuprise.com if you haven't. Seriously, I highly recommend it. It is a way that you can, watch my videos without restriction. You don't have to worry about if I get thrown off the internet. You also can join the forum and share a lot of information that you know about and everything that's going on. I hope to see more people over there. And again, if you haven't gone over to A Time to Uprise, you can click on the link. It'll take you to a different page. On that page, there's a tab for free videos. I recommend you sign up for that if you want to keep up with my work. I don't expect any of you to keep up with channels getting deleted and stuff. It's hard enough for me to keep up with it. You have your own lives. So if you do that, it's just an easier way for me to shoot you an email in an email blast and say, hey, this is where I am now. If you want to come watch, you can come watch. Here are the videos. If you want to watch them, you can watch them. You don't have to watch them. But hey, at least you have the option to watch things that you actually might want to watch instead of being told what to watch. So go to the website now, click free videos, just put your email in and you'll join the mailing list, the email list for notifications. I thank everyone for being here. Hope you're doing well. God bless all of you and your families.